I'm here. Does anybody ever wonder what Sector X is? Hey, it's Comic Industry Insiders Live, and we're doing what is called a pre-show banter. So this was an idea we came up with, and we stole from our friends over Black Hills. We're basically going to bring in everybody who's going to be on the show, and everybody's not going to be on the show. Basically, everybody involved with Prana in some way, shape, or form, and Shannon Live is here. So we got about 15 minutes before the show goes live. I want to bring, Blake, let's bring everybody on. Let's bring them all up. And we'll give everybody a quick intro. Can we do that? Am I the only one who can handle that? Oh, there's Gabe Yoakum. Hey, Gabe. We introed you last time. Joe's been on the show.
Hey.
Joe Keating. And we all know our buddy Blake. And Shannon Mother effing Live. That's not me cursing. I'm not cursing. I'm not allowed to do that. But
so
can we? I know it's crazy. We've been having a live show now almost all year. We haven't had you on it, which seems a little like a lost opportunity, right? It is the live show,
right? It's literally the live show, and that's my name. Like,
I know. Somebody send Kyle the link so he can jump in, because apparently he's. Oh yeah, well, all right. We're Kyle is somehow in the chat. Anyway, how's everybody doing? I know this is weird. This is a little bit awkward. Actually, let's go around the room and say, because we all know I think we know what the stories are we're going to be talking about today. What do you think is the biggest story that came out of the comics industry this week that is not the ones we're talking about, which are Diamond and I think what is the other one? The Batman.
Mad.
Yeah, the Batman thing. Shannon, you were just saying actually that would you tell that story that you were just saying about being on a show with a bunch of children who thought that comics was going to die?
Yeah, well, I was just on a show recently, and one of the things was that is the physical medium itself going to die? Like, are comic stores still going to exist in a few years? And I love it because people are always, surrounded by physical media when they say that. And it's so funny because I actually referenced you in my argument back, Adam. I was like, look,
really?
like I've seen I've had conversations with Adam from, Prana Direct Market Solutions, and they have been doing those numbers. They can show you that like stores are still opening at the same rate they've always opened. They can show you that comics are selling higher. I was like, we've got so much going on right now, but we're seeing so many new faces, and we're seeing 20-year-olds and under, 25-year-olds and under, really, that are coming into the store. I had a kid the other day who was probably about 12 years old who was in here, and he got $125 from his mom to shop, and he was like, I'm only buying things that Robert Kirkman has done. And he was just setting him up, and he's like, I watched Invincible, I've read Invincible, I want everything else. And he's going Super Dinosaur, like I had to sell him on Void Rivals, like getting him to go Transformers was like the hardest one. He was just like, but what does it have to do with that? And I was like, a lot, like everything. He's kind of overseeing it right now.
You finally got a chance to move that Battle Pope that you've had.
He was totally asking for that. Like, there's so many like that. All that it's like they're finding it, and a part of it is because of YouTube and TikTok and things like that. People are out there talking about things that they discover, and then other people are discovering it. I have so many young people come in with like a cell phone, and they're like, "Do you know what this is?" And it's one panel of a comic, and I'm like, actually, yes, I do. Thank goodness, because we would have had a long road. But it's constant. It's every day. There's so many more young people. There's so many people coming in, and it's just, they're coming. They're coming for the absolutes and invincibles, and they're staying for everything else. Tech Jacket, we just had to order a ton of. I'm not going to lie to you about that.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you.
So many requests for that compendium that is coming out later this year already. So yeah,
right up. I've got bills to pay, so let's go. Thanks, Robert.
YouTube and say you guys need Tech Jacket, and they'll be there because they are. I have at least 4 people who have already asked me for that compendium. So
nice.
And they're all under the age of 25. So
we're seeing on the EXP a lot more of that Gen Z slang in the chat. And I'm having to explain it to the olds among us, and I am an old, and it just makes me feel weird.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know, Shannon, you can
Oh, in the Kyle became a robot.
Right. Transformers are everywhere, man.
That's right.
But
Yeah,
this is the problem with weaving in and out of semi trucks while you're trying to do a live show, right?
I think so.
But no, people are coming in and asking for like Arkham Asylum by the tagline, right? They're coming in with weird knowledge that even old heads don't have.
Yeah.
You know, a David Mazzucchelli panel going, "Do you have this?" And you go, David Mazzucchelli, and they're like, "That's not how you say his last name." Okay.
Yeah, it's great, and that is actually probably the thing I love the most is they are hearing about it on these shows, so people are talking about them by creator names, and so they're coming in for that creator recognition too. Not only are they like, do they have this book? They're like, hey, I heard about this creator. They're now my favorite. I want everything they've ever done, and it's like, okay, like that's awesome. Like where did you hear about this creator? And the answer is always YouTube. It's always, oh, I was on YouTube or I was on TikTok. And so, you know, if you have a store out there or if you are in comic industry somewhere and you're not on either one of those platforms, just talking, you might want to get on there and just like pitch stuff that you love, that you also maybe have an abundance that you want people to come to your store and check out.
And then on the other side of the spectrum, I somehow completely missed the fact that there were going to be Muppet variants.
Yes.
And I went online this weekend and pre-ordered every single one of them, of a bunch of books I don't read because I need them in my life. And I'm 42 now. So like there's a lot going on the publisher side more recently than now that I'm kind of back in the mix with this stuff that publishers just weren't doing 10, 9, 8 years ago. Right. And they seem to be starting to understand the value and appreciating comic shops more, which is really exciting for me in a sales role.
I've always said that, you know, the value, it's really difficult to make any money in the direct market as a publisher, but it's an incredible place to build a brand. And it's because of those comic shops, because you've got this incredibly stable base of stores. They have not really shifted. The store count hasn't really shifted at plus or minus 4% in going on 20 years. Like, they are just these incredibly stable places that you can build a real business in it. You know, and each new generation finds it. I think that's the shit, right? That's the reason why we are able to do this. Is it because of people like Shannon who keep the doors open of these wonderful little places in these communities? So yeah. Brian, you jumped in, buddy. You made it.
Hey, I did, just in time.
Okay, good. I know this is our first pre-show banter, so we're like, you know, nobody really quite has the timing down yet, which is totally good.
I wouldn't have been in the car, but my doctor took like 3 times longer than normal to yell at me. It's weird.
Yeah, I feel that. Joe, we've got about 5 minutes. You had a rant thing. You and I were talking earlier today. And I'm hoping you can narrow it down to under 5 minutes. Why is comics taking itself too seriously?
Well, look, comics are awesome. That's my big premise. That's my big, bold thing. I'm not going to tell you why it's taking itself too seriously, but I think we kind of forget that sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, that was the thing I was ranting on beforehand. Because I do think they're incredibly important. Like, what's the short version of this? The short version of this is everything is influenced by comics, whether it's comics or not, right? Like, you and I were talking about Meow Wolf. You guys familiar with that art collective? Like, look at their logo. That's a comic book logo, you know? Or and it's like, and look at every single big movie. Look at John Wick. It's not based on a comic book, but I think we've forgotten who we are, right? Like, we've forgotten that we're the engine of pop culture 20 years before pop culture ever realizes it, you know? And I think, you know, sometimes we subject like Muppet variants are awesome. I love that kind of thing. You know what I mean? But like we forget that comics are the exciting secret source code of the entire, a pop culture period. Or I can't remember. There was some other tech guy I was reading about that said he started his company because of Stark Industries. and that's a multi-billion-dollar.
Oh, that
industry.
that was totally Elon before he became a terrible human being.
It wasn't. Well, I don't know if that was Elon. I wasn't thinking it was someone besides Elon because I would have remembered that. But let me just say, like, I think we lose sight of that too much, and then we try to the rant I was giving you was I think we try to prop ourselves up. Like, I love that there's an Invincible cartoon, right? Especially because Tech Jacket appeared in it. Thank you, coming this fall, right? But it was awesome before it was ever a cartoon. It was awesome when Ryan Otley was drawing killer double page spreads that used probably like 3 jars of ink to do because they were so detailed and were so awesome. And that was 15 years ago, So anyway, that's the short version.
That's a good one.
Comics forgets what it is, and it's the secret source code of pop culture. That's it.
Secret source code.
You said that to me in a meeting the other day, Joe, because we were talking about promoting something, and I was like, we need to try and make this cool, and you were like, no, it's already cool.
It's already cool.
That's where
comics don't need further justification. It's just the comics are awesome. Like my big headline, by the way, was read The Knives by Sean Phillips and Ed Brubaker. I'm excited that they're doing a show that's great. Don't get me wrong, but that comic, if the show never existed, is so good. I'm going to recommend it the rest of my life. So yeah, David Crispino nails it in the comments.
Yeah, I remind people all the time that like funny books is a thing.
Yeah.
Don't take yourself so seriously, and people will like you better.
I want to go further because you said they're the nexus point really of pop culture, but I do a presentation called The History and Impact of Comics on American Culture. And one of the things I do is just talk about how many words in our language came from a comic strip or a comic book, and how much we impacted the way, not only like the words we say, but the way we say them. And I'm like, forget even just being pop culture nexus point. We are like at the
100%.
So much in culture in general, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
100%, and they have been this whole time, right?
Yeah.
That's it. This unique American art form is incredibly influential, but it has its own value. So
is Kyle off-roading right now?
Yeah, did he just crash into a lake? Is that what I heard?
That's what it sure sounded like.
Well, that's yes.
Hey, I'm trying to get back to the office before it's time to talk about local comic shop days. So traffic laws are only suggestions.
I love it.
Do you see what we do to bring you comics news and content? Like we're speeding, we're disobeying road rules. We're here for you people.
Hey, you kids, get out the road. I'm not slowing down.
Blake, no matter what's going on, the minute that the clock strikes 2, I want you to hit that video so that we know we're jumping in. This is the pre-show banter. This is where something we're trying. It's brand new. It's an opportunity for us to kind of bring the Prana team out and have everybody kind of chit chat while we all get warmed up. So I appreciate it. Oh, and look at that. Hey, I'm not used to that being that small. My name is Adam Freeman. This is Comic Industry Insiders Live, a weekly look at the comic book industry, the people who hold the whole thing up, the people behind the scenes of comics. And what we do is we dig deep into the big headlines of the week, but we also try and cover some of the more in-depth issues that we're dealing with. This week, as every week, my co-host, the man, the myth, the legend, the man who keeps metadata interesting, dare I say sexy, Brian Garside. Brian, are you there? Blake, can you bring it? There he is.
I thought Blake was going to push me, but I had to push the button myself.
Push yourself.
That's right.
You came in hot today. What are you working on?
Why? So. Comics people may not be aware of this, but we have these things called holidays. So yesterday was a thing called Labor Day, wherein you're not paradoxically not supposed to labor on it. but comics people don't care. So they
Like
just
board day.
bombarded me with messages all day yesterday. And today, because I was trying to be a good father and hang out with my family yesterday, I had to respond to a bunch of those messages. And
yes,
a number of them were unimpressed by my tardiness in responding to emails that they sent yesterday. But
I feel that. Mondays you get into especially when you do a live show like this, you get into this pattern of, on Mondays I do this, on Tuesdays we could do this, on Wednesdays, and now Tuesday I'm just doing everything. It's the worst. It is the worst. And I know that people like Carl like to use Labor Day to catch up, but some of us have barbecues, right? We have to cook steaks for our family.
Right.
Anyway. That's this week
we did a launch on Thursday last week, and things that were supposed to take like 20 minutes, like we had predicted that we had to convert 5 million products in the overall database, and it turned out being 83 million. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but 83 is a much larger number than 5 million. And so it took us until 5 a.m. that night. And then I was up by 8 a.m. to respond to emails that were started coming in 3 hours later. And it turns out at 53, I can't do that like I used to do that when I was 20. And it took me literally 2 days just to recover from that. It was like the worst hangover ever. So I've not been my best lately.
I believe that. Well, I'm going to do a lame transition and say that one of the biggest things that most comic shops have to deal with every year is Free Comic Book Day. And publishers, retailers alike, we all get ready for this. And for publishers, this is about the time of year that we're working on that. We're going to dig deep into why we have no plan for Free Comic Book Day yet, but we're going to be doing that later in the show. And hopefully doing it in a way that is not going to give us all a hangover. But and we have a special guest in the form of Shannon Live, who's going to come on and talk us through, and from her position at Comics Pro, talk through why it is that this is so difficult to really manage inside of a post-Diamond world, because there's so much there. Before we jump into that, though, I did want to talk about the Prana Bullet. This is a weekly
slide.
I know, isn't that pretty?
Wow,
Blake is fucking killing it with the
he really is. Oh,
space.
it's before 8 minutes, Adam. You can't say that.
Oh, am I jumping in too early? Oh, damn it. Right. Oh, because I did it with the cursing. I'm sorry. Anyway, the Prana Bullet, where I rarely curse, but not never, is a weekly newsletter that we send out for the comic book industry, essentially trying to give context for what everybody is dealing with, giving you the biggest headlines of the things that are going to, as a comic book professional, you're going to be dealing with, as a comics fan, what you're going to see being a problem later on. And it's just really just a kind of a weekly nugget of this show, and it kind of also a preview often of what's going on in this show. So we do that. If you want to bring that up, there is a QR code. Did we not get the QR code? Why did we lose it? There we go. You can go to pranadm.com and sign up, and we'll get you the very next one. All right. There you
and
go.
Maybe next week we'll have something cool to announce about Prana DM, the website. Maybe.
I hope so. It is on my schedule. I was just telling my family how excited I was that you and I are going to lock ourselves into a room and not
2 hours. It's crazy.
I know. Yeah. That's not tomorrow, is it? Thursday?
No, Thursday, which is like one of the days this week, but I don't think it's the next day this week. I don't ever know until I look at my calendar.
All right. On this part of the show, and much in the same way that every week has its pattern, so does every show. This is the part of the show where we talk about headlines, and we discuss the things that all the comic book people are dealing with, and we try to pick out a couple of stories that we feel like are the most important to what you are dealing with as a comics professional. This week there were a couple that hit our 8 minutes was like 15 minutes ago. Oh, that's true. Pre-show banter means I get to curse earlier. Okay.
Oh, nice. Nice. That's sweet.
Yeah, Derek. I don't know what they're. I think we'll get into that. But this week we had a lot more movement in the Sparkle Pop takeover of Diamond. We had our friends at Diamond, the old Diamond, come out and basically say, you guys got to let go of this consignment inventory. We spoke to a publisher this last week who is essentially has no idea whether or not they're still a publisher, because they have given up on the money that Diamond owes them. And now they're trying to decide if they have to give up on the inventory that Diamond owes them. And they won't know until the court rules on this subject. And the idea that this is just sitting out there. Well, anyway, so we had the Diamond, old Diamond, come out and basically say, you guys have to end this. You guys have to stop holding people's inventory because it's on consignment. It's how they're able to do this is, I still don't quite understand the legal justification for holding something on consignment and selling it.
It's crazy too. They are doing a massive sale on everything through September 8th. Diamond is, and like we're talking massive amounts of Marvel stuff, Image stuff, IDW, Dark Horse, Boom, like a huge lot of trade paperbacks from Marvel, just like tons and tons of stuff. It's insane, and I assume all that money will go to the lawyers and not to Marvel. So
what? I mean, we've seen one of the biggest lawyer bills so far, something like $2 million bill, not for the whole thing, but like for the last month. There's every month they're just accruing and accruing and accruing and accruing, and the only people who are getting paid out of this are the lawyers. So yeah, shouldn't be selling until it's finalized. Yeah, and that's a good point, Megan. That they absolutely should not be. In fact, we saw our friends at Fantagraphics come out with a sale first to consumers and then a big sale to retailers who are basically saying, look, we need some help if we're going to survive this. So now is the time to restock into your stores so that we can get this revenue in, So yeah. If only there was a court. Yeah, I know. Yeah, they specialize in taking money from the people who are supposed to be getting it, which is the people that are the vendors. It's, I don't know, the whole thing is horrible. I'm beyond apoplectic about this, and we're doing what we can to help those publishers who are trying to recover, but there's very little that can be done at this point. Yeah. So our next story, let's dig in. DC Comics warns retailers to keep polybag covers in the shadows. Earlier in the pre-show banter, Shannon was talking about how important it is for stores to be doing their own video content, their own kind of messaging throughout social media. And I think a lot of stores are just getting, out over their skis as far as what they're showing during a period when all of these things. David Harper, if you are watching this, you're probably not. You're calling me at the moment. So anyway, all of this to say that there's there's nobody who is actually policing this at the moment because there are multiple distributors, right? Yeah. There's just no good. There's no good way of policing this. So where are you seeing on your side? I mean, you've seen these polybag covers come through. They have to be a secret, right?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting thing is like with Battle Beast, it was very, very explicit that you were not supposed to open and show the covers beforehand because they didn't want to spoil some of the surprises. But I don't remember seeing the same messaging from DC. I mean, it logically makes sense, but we also have FOC shows and new release shows that go out like on Mondays and Tuesdays from a lot of places where they're showcasing the covers of the stuff coming out this week. So opening those things up early kind of makes sense. Now, I think what was going on Whatnot too was like you would buy the thing and then they'd open it for you right there, which
Right.
yeah, that's kind of a little outside the norm, I think. But yeah, and this could just be me. Like I don't read God knows every email that every publisher sends because there's about 700 a week. But I don't recall seeing something that said, please don't show these covers beforehand, because they're supposed to just be foil versions of all the covers that are out there right now. So I didn't know if there was something kind of outside of that, but yeah.
Well, they have said that you are not. I'm trying to find the story, and I wish we had it up and running. If anybody wants to pull that up and drop us a link in there, we can. DC has basically said we will limit the number of stores that are participating in this in the future. If you step out of line and you are able, and you start showing this early. I mean, part of the problem we had on the podcast, we had Jack DeMaio from Whatnot. We talked about how box breaking culture coming out of the trading card world has really affected comics and these blind bags. And that method you talked about, which was essentially when Megan saying she sent me a link where they essentially sell the blind bag and then open the blind bag live. That's a pretty common, as you said. Yeah, right. Pack breaks. It's what they do in order to get people excited about these things. And it's part of why this should work. But I think we all have to figure out what the rules are for comics living in this world, because trading cards already has rules for this. So it's a little Wild Westy at the moment, but we'll get there.
Yeah, it's interesting for a number of reasons, and some of them are like the logistics behind selling something before street date, which can you take the money for the item before it arrives? I mean, that's really just a pre-order, right? I don't see a problem in that. It's making sure that those things don't get into somebody's physical hands until street date, which I think is still important.
It is, and we'll decide where that is. Here's the actual. I don't know if you want to bring this. Somebody can bring this up. It's in our private chat.
Yep.
Blind bags must not be in customers' possession prior to the street date. The contents of the blind bags may not be shown or disclosed before the street date. Retailers who violate this policy may be restricted from participating in future blind bag programs. That's from DC. So, I mean, we'll see. I don't know. It's going to be fascinating to see how this turns out. And I think that we're going to, I don't know. We'll all figure out the new normal as these sort of programs start affecting our world. Mm-hmm. But speaking of programs that affect our world, I think is it time? I don't even remember our own deck at this point. It's been a little while. All right. Let's bring in Kyle, who is our resident producer type, our resident mutton chopper, and talk about Local Comic Shop Day and the experience. We're going to be bringing in Shannon here in a little bit to talk about Local Comic Shop Day, or actually to talk about Free Comic Book Day. But tell us about Local Comic Shop Day and how it's how you guys are working through the experience with it.
Oh, your sound's gone.
I love it when the producer left himself on mute. It is my favorite thing. No, that mic is dead. Oh
no.
This is the best. This right here, I understand that there's dead air and that's bad broadcasting and whatever, but when the producer fucks it up, it makes me feel better. Because oh, we lost him.
Oh no, he's still here.
Oh.
I pushed the wrong button.
Is he?
There's the one. Group layout.
And
he's still working. So Adam, how you doing?
Let's bring in Shannon.
Let's
bring in Shannon. You wanna? Shannon, you ready? Give me a head nod. Okay, great. Let's add her to the stage. Can we add her to the stage?
1 sec.
Oh, there we go.
Well,
Shannon, tell us about Local Comic Shop Day.
Yes. So Local Comic Shop Day is an international celebration of comic book stores and the third spaces that they create. And this year, we're really focusing on that idea of community and the idea that each store is a unique little piece of our own personal heaven, like out there in the world. And you can go there and you can find all the comics that make you happy, but you can also make new friends and have an awesome time. I can even tell you everything that Kyle was going to tell you. But we're really excited. Local Comic Shop Day started as is a Comics Pro led initiative, but it keeps growing. This year is kind of a revamp of it too, where we really want to kind of build that whole idea of like go out, get involved in your community at your comic store, find a book club, find some kind of fun program that you can be a part of, and so everybody gets to do their own thing. And it's very similar to Free Comic Book Day, except we also have like certain exclusives and things like that you can pick up from different publishers. And there are a lot this year. There's a lot of publishers who made special Local Comic Shop Day variants. There's a lot of traditional book and comic publishers who are bringing in a lot of like incentives to stores and a lot of goodies. It's going to be wild, but I love seeing what stores are coming up with, because there's everything from trivia to like zine festivals to comic cons to even just hanging out with the experience. So
Gotcha. Well, and so tell us about what made the shift this year. Why is Local Comic Shop Day so important this year?
yeah, well, last year we kind of, with everything that was going on in the last couple of years, especially like just how fast things were changing, and really it kind of spurred out of that year that Free Comic Book Day moved back to August. It kind of pushed Local Comic Shop Day to a point where it was like, how can we revamp this? Like, how can we have more than just that? Like, oh, there's a couple of variants, and because of that, there started to be a little bit less involvement on all sides. And we were like, how do we get that energy and excitement back up, especially when you think about the fact of that comic book stores are, so many people's favorite place to go. And it's like, how do we highlight that? How do we highlight all the work that people are doing? I just saw Tommy Donovan pop up. He is doing a 4-store citywide Local Comic Shop Day experience this year. And it's like, how do we like celebrate that? And we sat around and we were like, it's about the community, not just the commodity. We don't want it to just be, hey, there's product here. We want it to be like, hey, there's people here. And that's why you choose your store. That's why you go there. Like, let's make it fun and let's celebrate that. And we've been really focusing on building out so much for this year. And it's been the distribution companies, the publishers, everybody's just been like, yes, like, let's go. We're so excited. And that helps so much too.
Wonderful. So can you tell it, Kyle? Can we hear you? Say something.
Yeah, you can hear me now.
Oh my God, that's wonderful.
Right. In the year of our Lord, why do cables only work one direction? I don't understand
it. Tell us about how the experience is going to be involved in the Local Comic Shop Day this year.
So we were trying to figure out how we could get involved with Local Comic Shop Day, how we could get involved with different parts of, as things change in a distribution upheaved world, how could we help? And so we thought, what if we made one piece of content that every store everywhere could use? And then I don't remember if it was me or if it was Nick Barucci, but one of us had the really dumb idea of, why don't we do that live for many, many, many consecutive hours? And that's where this came from. So the idea is to go live before stores on the East Coast open and end our day as stores on the West Coast close. So there will always be a Local Comic Shop Day piece of content streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Instagram, wherever, that you can tune into and pump into your store, that will promote all the stores all over the country, will promote the product on offer, will promote the idea of the local comic shop as your third place, and to show the best of the best. And that is the people who make comic shops a viable thing, all of them. So
love it. I absolutely love it. Well, and we talk a lot about how comic shops are this resource that deserves to be protected and does. I mean, and you're all doing so incredibly well this year that we're so excited to see, things like this work and give us every excuse we can to just show up at our local comic shop. I think is good, and I appreciate the experience for once again being part of that experience. And I, you guys are doing the good work, so thank you so much for that.
If you're a retailer out there, you should have gotten an email from me about this. Respond to the email. Don't just be that guy who doesn't respond to an email. Respond to the email so we can get you involved, please.
I love it. Respond to the email. All right. Good deal. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Shannon. Shannon, we're going to have you back here in a minute. We're also going to have another, I've just found out, another super secret guest is going to be jumping in at the last minute to talk about this. So we're looking forward to getting into Free Comic Book Day here in a minute. But before we do, Brian, can you come back and let's...
Oh, Blake and I are pushing the button at the same time.
Stop pushing! Someone needs to
take my hand off the buttons. No, Blake is right. Blake is the producer. I'm just a control freak is all.
Awesome. Wonderful. I think we need to do these next few a little bit slow because we just got in a secret guest who's going to jump in and talk about Free Comic Book Day and how everybody is going to deal with that. But first, if you are a comic book industry professional, I don't know why you wouldn't be, but you should be voting for the Ringos. So go find the Ringos and may I suggest a Prana client in our friends at Source Point and their Homestead graphic novel. You might want to just give it a vote. Just give it a quick vote. All right, very good. There were a couple of we talked a lot about how the new things in comics on this show. One of the things we've never talked about is the community. We're just talking about the community of retailers, but there were a couple of retailers who passed this last week, and we wanted to take a moment to kind of give you just give a moment of respect to both of them. First is our friend Randy Myers. Randy owned the Collector's Corner stores outside of Baltimore and around Baltimore, and Randy was just a sweetheart. We are absolutely going to miss him, and we want to make sure that you are just know that the stores are in our hearts, and you, buddy, absolutely are going to be in our memories. If you are in a Collector's Corner, I know that they're talking now about some of the things that can be done to come by, and I think they're going to have some events. I think there's been some conversation about doing something in and around Baltimore Comic Con, so I want to make sure that we brought that up. Will you talk about our next one? Our next slide
yeah, absolutely.
Is somewhat important to you.
Yeah, Dave Wallace, who was the owner of Dragons. There's so many of them. I think it was Dragon's Lair or Dragon's.
Yeah,
I should know this. One of the dragons. Oh, Fantasy Shop. That's it. Fantasy Shop. Yeah.
But it has a dragon in the logo, so it's difficult to remember. Yeah,
I've always remembered it. So it's in Missouri, in St. Louis, and literally wrote a book that I have pored over. I have a copy.
Hold on a second, I'm going to grab it.
Actually, trying to find it. Yeah, I was trying to find my copy, and it's just an amazing resource for anybody starting a comic shop, fantasy shop, anything. He talks about everything from hiring to, just foot traffic and how important. We've heard this from many, many retailers, but it was the first time I ever saw it in print that it resonated with me, which was like, your location is a marketing expense. It's not a rental expense. So where you are is totally part of the marketing budget. I learned so much from that book, and it was truly inspiring. I never got to meet Dave in person, but I really wish I did. Yeah, and real tragedy that he passed away at 67, which as you hit your 50s and you hear about dudes passing away in their 60s, you're like, that's too young. That's way too young. So yeah, 100%. It's very sad.
Yeah. we're both of these gentlemen titans in our industry, and again, I think it just goes to the theme of the show is that the local comic shop is a place to be celebrated, and the people who keep them up and running are the reason that we're all here. So Nick Barucci showed up in the chat, which means it's always time. Anytime anybody invokes Nikki's name, we
That's
have
right.
to say you have to hit the thumbs up, you
Smash
have
it.
to hit the
Smash it.
subscribe, and you gotta hit the alert button because Nikki's here. So let's not forget that. Oh, Collectors Corner has a GoFundMe to help with their community outreach available to schools and libraries. Please, Megan, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and drop that into the chat, and we'll make sure that everybody sees it. And we'll
I mean, as good of a year as this is, everyone has to remember that last year was not like this, and so a lot of stores are still recovering from last year's kind of downtick in sales and uptick in everything else. Like rents went up, employee costs went up, everything went up, and sales went down. So a lot of shops are still kind of struggling with that, for sure.
100%. All right, now let's get into the meat of this week's episode and really talk about one of the biggest issues facing our industry, which is an event that we have every year, a holiday that we call Free Comic Book Day. Alex Cox, if you are watching this later, I'm not answering your call. Free Comic Book Day happens the first weekend of every May, and or the first Saturday in May, or has been, except for that one year that Shannon mentioned, where we all had it in August because we thought maybe we'd put it up next to that movie. It has been a staple in comics for basically I think since 2000. I want to say it was when we started. It was also the first year that I was a comic book retailer, so I remember that very clearly. Like it was our first anniversary as retailers, and then we wanted to make sure that we were going to do it, and suddenly there was a holiday for it. So it is. The problem with it is, it's manyfold. But I wanted to bring out our first guest, which is we had her earlier. In a way that was not going to, we weren't really planning on having Shannon aboard to talk about local comic shop day, but she is prepared to talk about Free Comic Book Day. So once again, the Bat City Comics retailer, the board member for Comics Pro, Shannon Live. Shannon, why is Free Comic Book Day going to be such a struggle this year?
Well, Free Comic Book Day is going to be a struggle for the big one right there is that it is a thing that is trademarked and owned by, at this point, Sparkle Pop. As of the transfer of everything, Sparkle Pop now owns the full trademark to the term Free Comic Book Day. And the thing that makes it a little bit harder than even just that they have it is that it is a marketing and advertising trademark specifically, which means you cannot use the terms Free Comic Book Day in any capacity to create an event unless you have the approval from Sparkle Pop to use that. It is registered to them. And so that's the number one challenge of the thing right there, is that they would have to be a part of it or willing to allow somebody else to have that name. And so that's step one, if you want to dissect what that means a little bit more.
Yeah. So where exactly? So the ideas Free Comic Book Day are trademarked. So full disclosure, woke up with a wild hair one day and I bought freecomic.day, and I was going to make a big deal out of it. And I thought, so I went to my lawyer and I said, should I do this? And he said, absolutely not. Do not.
It is trademark law on a term like that is going to be any kind of combination of those words. And so, and I know this from personal experience because I once worked at a children's theater, and I tried to run a campaign that said choose your own summer adventure, and I got in trouble. And so I know, because they were like, any combination, even if you mix it up with those marketing trademarks, you cannot use it. And that is big or small. So if at Bat City I decided I just wanted to do I don't know what's going to happen, I'm just going to plan my own Free Comic Book Day, and I even said Bat City's Free Comic Book Day, I personally could get sued just at the thing. So you have any combination of that's going to be the king. Now, Free Comic Book Day didn't get trademarked until even just like their trademark actually didn't go through until a couple years ago. Because of the fact like they didn't even try until I think it was 2021. And the trademark actually went through a lot of big changes and things as they were going through it, because they actually tried to when they initially trademarked it, they came back and said, the lawyers came back and said it was too generic of a term, essentially. And that there was like that could be something that anybody could lay claim to. And so it was one of those where it was like it could be too generic. They also said that there was already another event that had a copyright that existed that it was too close to, which at the time would have probably been Local Comic Shop Day, because that was trademarked before Free Comic Book Day. And then they had to go through all of these hoops. If you actually look up their trademark process, it says that they had to reapply, and then upon the reapply, they actually had to do the like make sure nobody is going to contest it. So they had to run an ad saying, we are trying to trademark this. And of course, you only have to do that in the city you're in. So it was only run in like the Baltimore area newspapers, and you only have to really put it in like one newspaper. But they actually had to go through that before it was approved. So it actually took about a year and a half, I think it was, for that trademark to even get approved in the first place. But now that it has gone from Diamond to Sparkle Pop, you're going to have to essentially convince Sparkle Pop that is something that they want to either license out to other people or to put into the ether and let people use. And that's where it gets a little complicated, because you can't for Free Comic Book Day, I guess backing up, if you don't know the process, like the publishers select their books, and they have to go through, like, usually there's a group that's like, okay, these titles are approved and everything. There's usually a committee that the titles get approved by. And then those titles, they work with their distribution companies, and they put that Free Comic Book Day bar on there. And that logo goes on the comics. And so not only is it on the advertising and everything, but every single comic included in Free Comic Book Day has that marker of Free Comic Book Day on there. And so then you've got all your flyers, you've got your freecomicbookday.com, you've got the previews catalog, you've got the previews website, you've got all of these things. And all of that falls under that protected trademark. So publishers right now planning also need to know what they can put on their comic. And so, and how many, and is there going to be a committee that's going to have to say which books go through, and who is that going to go through? And if it's not Sparkle Pop overseeing everything in the way Diamond does each distributor have to buy out a license from them? Does each distributor, is there going to be one organization that's going to be able to get the license? And that's even if, we all are on this show, we watch the show, that's even if you can get a response from Sparkle Pop on even being able to use it in the first place, and if they're willing to let that up. And so you're at that point right now where you're just contending with the fact that the words Free Comic Book and Day cannot be used in any combination of things. I know I saw somebody say Free Comic Book Saturday, Free Comic Book Weekend. You're probably still going to get sued at that point.
Well, it's not even so much the suit for the person using it. It's that anybody who does use it could put themselves at jeopardy. So any of the retailers that use it could become, they could be violating that by selling the product. Any of the distributors, as you mentioned, that could be an issue.
And the other issue, before I know you're going to say, the other big issue that comes with that too is, if there's not a uniform body organizing the event, and say I'm like, okay, I'll risk it, and I call mine Free Comic Book Saturday, and then somebody else who said Free Comic Book Weekend, and then somebody else does Free Comics Today, and we all and somebody else just says we're having the first Saturday in May, then where's the marketing push that comes from the uniformity of everybody calling it one thing and it going across the board of, this is an international event that we're all prepared for? If we all start calling it something different, it dilutes the brand, it dilutes the messaging, and there is no overarching message going out to the world at that point, that we are all one big event together. Because that's what, you get your friends and you go to every single store within like an hour and a half radius because you want to stop at all of them and see what everybody's doing. But if you don't know that everybody's doing it, then how do you plan for that?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a holiday. It doesn't feel like a holiday then if everybody's just doing their own thing and you don't know that everybody's even doing it.
Yeah.
I was waiting for Brian to say something, but yeah, that's the answer.
That's exactly it. Yeah. That's exactly what my son and I do every year. We drive 2 hours all over the place and drop a bunch of money at stores because I want to support stores. And it's a great day, but yeah, we could also call that Tuesday if we wanted to and just go and do that on a random Tuesday. It's just not as fun because there's always things going on that day.
Well, so to that end, I'd like to bring forward somebody who maybe can give us a little bit of insight into how people are going to deal with this, how we're going to move forward. And I don't expect her to have the answers, but in our backstage is one of the folks who runs Lunar Distribution, which is one of the two biggest distributors for comics. And as Shannon pointed out, for the longest time, Diamond Comics was the arbiter of what Free Comic Book Day is. And so these new distributors are going to have to figure their place out. So please, if we, whoever is running this show, can you bring...
I'm not pushing buttons anymore.
Christina Merkler to the stage. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Christina. And I don't expect you to have all the answers, but I do appreciate you jumping in and helping us out understand this.
I mean, the problem is, actually, I spoke to Joe Shannon a little bit ago. And sorry, I'm losing my voice again, and I'm pretty sure I was losing my voice the last time I talked.
I think I'm pretty certain this is now this is a constant issue for you. Is that you?
Honestly, I'd almost rather just stay this way because then whatever. I have a little Kathleen Turner feel about me, but
you and Dirk Wood, y'all that Dirk Wood voice from
that's
now on.
right.
Yeah.
So when I spoke to Joe about it, from a distributor standpoint and a retailer standpoint, generally speaking, we need to know what's going on with this, by mid-November. That's when the catalog for December would go live. We would have initials in December. And then in January, we do FOCs, and that gives the publishers enough time to, do what they need to do to get everything done. So,
oh no!
Oh,
we lost Christina.
We lost her.
It's Sparkle Pop.
Hopefully she comes back. But I love Christina.
I do too.
And there is what she was kind of talking about. We've sat down with a lot of our industry partners and kind of talked about like what that time frame looks like when are those drop dead dates, and what do we need to know by each of those dates so that we can all kind of try to move forward, because there's so many great ideas, but it's like there's also, like she said, you've got to have a November catalog out, which means you've got to know what you're putting in that November catalog and before November gets here, because that catalog goes live. And so there she is. Maybe
could be. We'll see.
You want to, it's like there's a difference between what we could do overall to change like years from now and what we could do, like Christina said, in the next like 2 months,
right?
Kind of thing.
Sorry, I have my daughter who keeps trying to call me. And I keep saying, I cannot talk. And I was like, what is going on? By the way, never get calls, but as soon as I'm, in the middle of something, I get calls. Right?
I keep telling the people who are trying to call me that I'm not answering, but now, right now they seem to be calling, which is crazy. Yeah. I don't know what it is about today, but yeah, go for it. So tell us about what is A, is there a plan currently? And B, what are the factors that need to happen in order for there to be one?
Well, I mean, ideally somebody would buy Free Comic Book Day from Sparkle Pop, right? I mean, that would be the ideal situation. From what I've heard, the owner's out of the country, so that it's a little difficult. Also, does anyone know how to get a hold of Sparkle Pop? I mean,
you just call Bob Sparkle.
Yeah, I guess. So
I do. I can get you a person that will answer a phone. So
Oh.
if we need that, I can do that.
Wow. Yeah. If you can send that to me, that'd be great. I
Same.
mean, right. So, I mean, ideally, again, somebody would purchase it, and then they could just decide what needs to happen, right? Yeah, I think as a retailer, I can tell you, I have thought that Free Comic Book Day needed retooling for several years, and I think there are a lot of retailers who feel
100%.
that way.
Yep.
And when I spoke to Joe, I was very open and honest about it. I know I'm never like that. But
And we often bemoan the fact that we have to wonder what it is that you
Yeah.
actually think about any given issue,
Exactly.
Christina.
So
That's sarcasm.
yeah, I know. So, there are definite ways I think that we can improve on Free Comic Book Day. If we're unable to, then you just call it something different. You call it New Comic Book Day. I mean, we know New Comic Book Days every Wednesday, but you make this new event that's say New Comic Book Day, and you teach people on that Saturday what New Comic Book Day means. And it can be a lot of different things for a lot of different people. I've always thought that anything that comes out on Free Comic Book Day should be something that is going to be continued 2 weeks from that date. So anything that they get should be original content, and 2 weeks later there should be a follow-up to it, so that you can tell the customer, and you can actually hand sell them even if you're giving it to them free, and say, this is a great story, you're going to want to read this. In 2 weeks you can get the rest of this story. And those are the ways that I think would have made Free Comic Book Day work, because right now, as it is, it doesn't. You can talk to any given retailer and they would tell you, yeah, it's one of my biggest sales day. Awesome, right? It can be one of your biggest sales day without having to buy a bunch of free comics and have a bunch of people in your store who come in and get free books and never come back. There are ways that retailers are very intelligent and can figure out ways to actually sell stuff after. They just need the plan, right? And that plan would be having something that brings people back 2 weeks later, a week later. And then they can start teaching people the ways of the comic world. Okay, this is going to come out once a month. You got to see this. And then really start to get to know their customers and really just sell them what should be pretty easy to sell.
I agree. I think it is one of those things where that once people get a free taste, you should be able to bring them, have some excuse to bring them right back. If y'all don't mind, I have a wild idea that is not the wild idea I woke up with a few weeks ago. It's not even my idea. We have a client, Recca Publishing. They do The Future Is. It comes out in stores. Shannon, I know we see you guys on the order list that Lunar provides, so we appreciate that. This is a book that is produced by a bunch of hackers, right? It's Black Hills Information Security. They are an incredible group of ethical hackers who do penetration testing for big companies. Anyway, all this to say, it's a really wonderful book. It has a lot of hacking theory and lessons in it. It's also really wonderful, like a series of heist movies written by Fred Van Lente and done by some incredible artists. Blake, if you want to bring that up, we have an idea that we want to post out there just for anybody who could be using this. So we have a book that's coming out in May of next year. It's going to be coming out on the first week of May. It is The Future Is number 13. The plan right this second is to put this book into stores. If you order 10 copies of the 404 edition, meaning we would sell it as $4.04. For every 10 copies a retailer orders, they will get an additional 20 copies for free. And it'll be marked with this free comic logo that we had Rico Renzi produce. And we're going to make it available by Creative Commons. So for any publisher who wants to get rolling, this could be an answer for this book that just happens to show up at the first weekend of May and could just so happen to be available for an event that store would run on the first weekend of May.
I'm going to yes end this for you, Adam.
Okay.
It would be super awesome if the trades for 1 to 6 and 1 to 6 and 6 to 12 would be available on the shelf at the same time.
Yes.
Because then I will sell this all day long.
All right, Shannon, Christina. Let's start with Christina. Why shouldn't this work? Because you have the exclusive. Rekka is exclusively distributing through Lunar. This should work, right? We didn't jump out ahead of our skis, did we?
No, but 10 copies is still like it's a barrier of entry for a lot of smaller retailers. So
Sure.
that's the only concern I have for that. And 30 copies, somebody getting 30 copies, you're talking about a finite number of stores that can even move 30 copies. I'm not saying it's not possible. It's a good idea, and I don't think it ever hurts to try something that's more retailer friendly. That's what I can say about that.
Well, here's what I will say is that 10 copies is $20. And yes, so you're right. At $20 for every publisher involved would be an investment. 100%. It's not for everybody. Totally get that. And yes, we did work hard to make it a jumping on point. And as Joe wants to point out, where did it go? Covered by Paul Pope. I just had to mention that too, because it's my job to sell this book. Shannon, will this work for you for Bat City?
I mean, I think that Tommy brought up that good point. Like, is it a jumping on point? There is a difference in the thing that makes like the free comic book day books work is that they are or that should make them work is, like Christina said, that they are something that's like a new thing that's going to get me into, like, get customers into it. There's times when people do a free comic and it's like midway through the series, and those are kind of the ones, like Christina said, that are a little bit harder to go back and get people to jump in on it, because does it still exist? Like Brian said, are you going to have the trade paperbacks available? Because what if I get everybody hooked on issue 13 and they can't go back and get 1 through 12? And then I'm like, oh, cool, I spent money on getting you hooked on 13, but it's not going to necessarily go anywhere because I can't sell you 1 through 12, and people don't want to read 13 through whatever. Even we call them good jumping on points because we're already into comics and we're already reading it. But for somebody who comes in on something like Free Comic Book Day, most of those people, it's a lot of their first time in a comic store. And so they don't know what the term jumping on point means. We forget that our industry terms don't make sense to people outside of our industry. And that's for all industries. You know, if somebody came in and told me something about football that wasn't that Taylor Swift is marrying Travis Kelce, I would have no idea what they were talking about. Like, that's all I got. Like, I know that I watched that podcast, but I don't necessarily wouldn't know anything else you were saying if you were telling me the difference. And so it's really important to remember that a jumping on point to add same as a jumping on point to a person who's never been into a comic book store. They just know number one means I start here. And so when you say 13, it's like, oh, I have to go back and read. And that's why, you know, as much as it doesn't always work with Marvel and DC rebooting at these number ones, those legacy numbers terrify people, though. Like, I have to read 667 issues of a comic to understand what's happening. And so, yeah, I think the jargon is an interest killer is definitely a great way to say that. Like, when we get into our terminology, I think it does shut some people down. Do I think that your process of saying, hey, we're going to make a free comic no matter what, like, is that great? Like, absolutely. Like, I love that y'all are thinking of something. And I love to see that people are, you know, trying to make sure that something happens. I think that this is, like I said at the beginning, for Free Comic Book Day, whatever we call it this May, whether that's the same thing we call it May 2027, or it's just we call it one thing May 2026, and then we use 2026 to build what it will be forever going forward after that. If we do have to change the name, whatever it is, it still just needs to have that uniformity amongst the, you know, like whatever books Lunar is distributing and whatever books PRH are distributing, we need to have a title of what we're calling that day for both, because, you know, we used to have the Halloween event, and that kind of died, and Penguin started Trick or Read with Marvel and IDW and some of them, and Trick or Read doesn't have the mass appeal of all over, because not everybody is doing a Trick or Read event. And so I don't call it trick or read at my store because nobody knows what that is because it doesn't have that mass market. I call it Bat-tastic Halloween. It just helps that I have bats in the name of my store, and that's a great Halloween thing. But you gotta, it's gotta be something that we're all doing, because if we don't get behind it in the same capacity, it's not going to be an international event. It's going to be a store by store event, and that again doesn't have the appeal.
So number 13, Adam, is that going to be something that you have to know what happened the 12 issues before? So
No,
really,
actually, we built this particular issue specifically so that it could be distributed at hacker events. And so it is very new reader friendly, and that is a one shot. It's one and done. Juan Gideon
call
is
it
in
the
the artist.
Rekka special then.
Yeah,
It's very
I would
much so.
think
Like Energon the Energon universe has been doing that for the last couple of years. The 2025 Energon special, that kind of stuff. Like that would be a really clever way of getting people in. And then you've got a one shot thing that you can give away and get people in for the next issue. Yeah, that's great.
Much better. Yeah, the Energon special is so smart. It gets people every year to start over at the beginning of that, and
with like 4 different books.
Yeah, and people buy the Energon special too. Like it comes out
afterwards,
book day, but then it has a different cover on the shelf 2 weeks later.
100%.
And people buy the one with the different cover because they want to make sure that they have that, that special cover that goes with it. They're completionist, as so many of us are.
I mean, I did not mean to turn this into an ad for Rekka. This is really just about we're working with a client who understands. I mean, the publisher, or rather I think he is the CCO, the guy who's kind of started the whole thing, man named Jason Blanchard, runs Rekka Publishing, ran Free Comic Book Day for Diamond. So we all knew what the pieces of this needed to be, and we just kind of had built this thing as this is going to be our Free Comic Book Day thing, and it hasn't, because there hasn't been a Free Comic Book Day fix. We wanted to make sure that we had something in place. So this is our way of contributing to. Shannon, if you're right, if there is no way of fixing this, at least we should, as publishers, as retailers, be keeping this dream alive until we can figure out the trademark problem of this, right? Would you guys disagree with that?
No, I definitely, we want to definitely do something. And, there's been a lot of different suggestions that have been brought out. Christina brought out some. I've had conversations with a lot of people, and there's a lot of different ones. I don't necessarily want to go through all of them, because then of course, like, that's just gonna be a whole nother show. But also one of the things is that we have, as retailers, and the conversation we're seeing with retailers, and there have been some people who have done some surveys of retailers throughout the industry for this, is we do want to keep it that one day. Some people have been like, what if we move to a month? What if we move to this? It's not something that is, the whole thing is that experience. And like, I'm not going to do an event every Saturday of the month. And I've talked to parents who are like, I'm not going to take my kids every weekend of the month to the comic book store. So it does have that celebratory experience. It is, how many people describe it, retailers, how many of you describe it as it's Black Friday for comic book stores? It's our big event that draws everybody in. And it's that day that, even if you, like, I have so many people who come in and say, like, today's the day that we get free comics, right? Today's comic shop day. And people say that to me every year on Free Comic Day. Oh, it's today's comic shop day, or it's 2 weeks from now is comic shop day. Like, it's at the beginning of May, right? And like, people just, they know that. And so getting that cohesive day that we all celebrate and have that experience is the big key to this. And it is such a huge thing for comics. Adam, you said it's one of the first things you did as a comic book retailer. It was one of the big things for me too. My career in comics before I was ever a comic retailer, I was a professional cosplayer. And my first job in a comic book store was they hired me as a professional cosplayer to come out for Free Comic Book Day. And while I was there, I was selling comics that I loved to people. And I was like, oh my God, I just want to work in a comic book store. And that led it on the path. But how many other people would tell you that got them into comics, or that got them into comic retailing? Like, it's a huge thing. And shout out to Joe Field for that how many of us have been impacted for that, and Joe for creating Free Comic Book Day. But it is something that's so quintessential. And look at to Joe's point earlier on the call, us being nexus point of pop culture, Indie Bookstore Day, Record Shop Day, they'll all tell you that they modeled it after Free Comic Book Day. And so we've got this thing that we've started and we've created, and it's amazing. And I think it's up to us as industry professionals to figure out whatever the next step is, how we all move forward together and make that point. And I saw Derek say, like, does Sparkle Pop even know they own the trademark? I promise you, somebody in Sparkle Pop's attorney department knows that they own. Maybe they don't all know, but I guarantee you their attorneys have reviewed the fact that they own that.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Shannon, for being here to kind of walk us through that. Christina, any last thoughts on how we're going to fix this mess?
No, not until we know whether it can be bought, right?
That's true.
Or they're willing to give it up in a way, like they just let it go. Because anybody who has the rights to anything, if they choose not to go to court and fight it, then that's when they give up the right to fight for it. So
100%.
I guess that's all we need to figure out. But we, again, have a couple of months, which will go by way sooner than we would like.
Way
but
faster.
Yeah.
100%. Awesome. Thank you both. Thank you for joining us. And I look for, I have no doubt that we're going to find an answer to this mess with people like you two trying to figure it out for us. So really appreciated. We're looking forward to having you both back on the show.
Thanks.
Thank you. Before we take off, Brian, I think there are a couple of pieces of business that we wanted to do. Do you have a personal plan? What do you do on Free Comic Book Day?
Last year we gave away a bunch of stuff, and I've been going, because I don't have a brick and mortar, I've been planning for this year, because it was kind of all fairly last minute last year, because I only took over everything in January. So a lot of the orders had already been placed for that stuff, because you order that stuff in like literally December, January.
Yeah.
So I was still kind of getting my sea legs under me. So I didn't do a lot. I did give stuff away at a local theater that I have kind of a partnership with. Next year, I'd probably, if I don't do a full-on pop-up, I would, like, get space at a local mall or something for a day and just give them out. But yeah, I've not loved the whole concept of giving away product for free for a long time. I get it, but it became more about the free and less about the comic book day in my experience with the stores that we went to. And I just hated the kind of grabby feeling that you got in those early hours, which I understand is part of the excitement and makes it awesome. But I tell you though, we have a name that is just sitting there unused that hasn't been announced for next year. This whole local comic shop day. There's no 2026 date yet. First Wednesday is first Saturday in May.
Shannon is waving her arms. There's a
just saying.
Go ahead.
I would love that. It is a trademarked title. It was actually trademarked before Free Comic Book Day, so it is a protected entity. I don't know the legalities of moving it and where that all falls. Like, that's definitely a larger conversation, but it is
for sure.
That there's got to be every opportunity and every option we has to be a part of the conversation. And I think, whether it's something that we do again for 2026 alone, or if we move to, we do move to make something different and completely, like, whatever it is, like, we have, the first goal is to save Free Comic Book Day, and to get that. But that is a conversation that can be included. That is a piece of the conversation that can be included in that mix, because it is something that can go to any day, and it is all about celebrating comic shops and the experience. And it does bring all of the mixture of what you're talking about. Like, there is the ability to give away free stuff. There's the ability to have exclusive sales. It does kind of bring in that indie bookstore, free comic book, or record store day kind of blend as well. And so there's lots of opportunities, and again, it's whatever's going to be the best thing for the industry to continue the event this year, and then what do we move forward after that are all going to be. The conversation is multifaceted and leveled, and it's a forever conversation until we find an organization and a process. And step one would be Sparkle Pot, give everybody free comic book day, make it something. But I think, again, putting that out there, Brian, I think that's a great thing to add to the conversation for sure.
All right.
For sure.
Thank you. Thanks for jumping back
Cool.
on it again.
Thanks.
But I do want to, before we sew this up, I do want to say, Tommy, yeah, they can. They legitimately can. And in fact, it's a trademark. It is an asset they own, and the only way they can continue to own it is if they protect it. And so you do not want to be in a position where they're protecting it by coming after you, Tommy. Okay.
And if there's one thing we know about Diamond right now is that they have all of the lawyers.
Because
Because they're paying them all. $2
they
million
really like
lawyer fees.
paying lawyers. They love paying lawyers.
Can't get
Don't
enough.
let them pay lawyers on your behalf. Thank you, Shannon.
100%.
All right. Normally, this is where we would do some ads. Let's just jump directly. I'm gonna run through these really quickly. So, if you're a retailer, you should be pre-ordering The Last Spartan. It's going to come up on FOC here real fast. They're a client of ours. I really want you to do that. And if you're not a retailer, or if you are on Kickstarter right now, you scan this QR code. You go to the Book of Jusco. These are once again, these are people that are represented by Prana, and we want to thank them for keeping us all employed. Brian, what's happening on September 11th?
Oh my gosh, September 11th. Oh my God, I just saw the date. Why? Okay, well, on the very poorly chosen September 11th, first we will respectfully pay our respects to the events of September 11th,
Typical Canadians.
2001. Oh my God. And then we're going to do a live stream around 4 p.m. I think it might be 3 p.m. Eastern time. What's new at Managed Comics? Multi-location is now live. Don't use it until I write the help documentation, please. Managed Comics for RMH is now live. You can use it, but I'm still writing help documentation. We're going to talk all about that new help documentation and a new secret project that will be launching by September 11th, if everything goes right.
All right. I cannot wait to talk about the new secret project.
Where I will Strong, who says yes, sir, because she actually used it this weekend, and I was like, dude, I'm not ready. Please don't.
Where I will be talking about it is probably this live show, which will be on next week at this time, and we will try not to go over, but this week there's just too much to talk about. But where we'll also be talking about it is if you go to pranadm.com and sign up for our newsletter or scan this QR code that's on your screen right now, you'll get the very next Prana Bullet, which comes out every Friday. And I stay at my desk until it is done. I think last week it went out at like 8 or 9 EST. It's just the way things would go.
I think we should announce your new website today.
No,
so that we are forced to launch it next Tuesday. I'm going to do it. Adam's new website is coming next Tuesday, minutes before this show drops.
Yes. PranaDM.com is undergoing some renovations with our friends at North IQ /Managed Comics. And but I had some stuff.
No, it's live. It's live next Tuesday.
Fine. By this time next Tuesday, we're going to be showing you a brand new website. And listen, this thing has been a long time coming. We've just been too busy, and it 100%. Has, which is a good problem to have. But
cobbler's children, right? Worse shoes.
100%. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Christina. Thanks to all of our friends at Prana who were on a little bit early to help us get through it. Thank you, producer Kyle, for jumping in. And thank all of you in the chat. We would not be able to do this without you. We would not be able to do this without you showing up here, letting us know that you're involved. And none of us would be able to do this if you didn't show up in your comic shops and pick up comics every week, because that's just the only thing that we know how to do is sell you stuff. And so please
don't make us get real jobs.
Please don't make us get real jobs. All right. There you go.
Shout out to Blake as well. All the slides and stomping over all my double clicks on everything. Thank you, Blake.
Listen, the level he leveled up when we brought in Blake, and that is absolutely noticeable. So thank you, buddy.
Absolutely.
Blake Morgan. Go and subscribe to Blake's Buzz. He talks every Wednesday night, and he usually talks about inappropriate comics with inappropriate people. So I absolutely appreciate it. Thank y'all, and namaste, y'all.
Namaste.